This is Karen with NewClevelandRadio.net, and it is time for Heart Mojo with Melinda Smith. Welcome, Melinda.
Hi, Karen. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. So, what are we going to do today?
So we're doing something a little different. I have a friend of mine, Honey Lazar, on, who I've known for 15 years, maybe somewhere in that range. And she's a local photographer, and she does wonderful art. But I wanted to tell you a little bit about herself to everybody, and then we're going to talk about her project that she just put out that is just amazing and so important. So, honey, how are you?
I'm okay in the context of COVID. Thank you for asking.
And you're in your studio, I see.
I am in my very messy studio with lots of colored pens and pencils. And this has a whole other side where I actually have a studio set up with lighting and stuff that you would be used to, Melinda.
Well, it's genius. All this stuff is what makes you a genius.
I'm an artist, so I can work in a small space as long as I have something to make. So
how did you get started doing your photography and your artwork? What made you get into that?
Well, so my dad was a professional photographer and a painter and a graphic artist. He was pretty much a genius and a jack of all trades and a filmmaker. And he died when I was 3.
Oh.
So the way I got to know my father was by looking at his photographs and studying them and watching the movies that he made and studying them. And I had this, because children have magical thinking, I had this idea that if I had a picture of you, you could never leave me. And so my interest in photography really grew from the magic of being able to objectify what I wanted to keep with me. So photography started off being, and probably has continued, where I photographed everything that I didn't want to forget. And I always had a camera with me. So that's how it really started. My dad had photographed Charles Lindbergh. He photographed a lot of famous people, but mostly he was interested in photographing our family. And I had 2 older sisters, both of whom were artists. My oldest sister was a dress designer, and my other sister was the crafts designer for Good Housekeeping magazine. And they died 10 months apart 8 years ago. And photography's importance just hit the ceiling with me. I'm very grateful for the memories that I have that I can hold as opposed to stored in a cloud. So that's how it all began.
I'm a big photo person as well, something we share in common. And you've done photos of me before when I was helping out a friend model her items.
When you were a model.
When I was a model, a little bit on the side, but it was a lot of fun, and you do excellent work.
Thank you.
So the reason why I wanted you on the show, besides you're a wonderful person, this particular podcast is about getting through life's challenges. That's what my Heart Mojo page is about. And you took on a very important, difficult topic that it was a challenge to do the topic. It's a challenge for the people who are in this project. And I want you to talk a little bit about Seen and Heard and how you got into it, why you did it. I did participate in it, and we can talk about that further in a little bit, but go ahead. Tell me more.
Well, just to back up a little bit, I went to art school, to the Cleveland Institute of Art, when I was 40. So I had a whole other career before that, and my career before that was that I was a clinical social worker. So when I went to art school, I think that merging my previous career of being a social worker into how I see is important to understand that I use my camera really for long-term projects with exhibition in mind, that generally have to do with social justice topics. And so when Me Too happened and women started and men started coming out of the shadows, I wondered how I could use my camera to keep the conversation going, because news cycles change, as we all know. Me Too was really a hot thing for a while, and then it wasn't. And it was pretty important to me to keep the conversation going and keep the conversation loud. So I had this idea that I knew, because of looking at photo history, that other photographers have done portraits of survivors. But Me Too was not about a face. It was about the telling. And I just wanted to photograph the process of telling, so that if I was successful at editing those images into conversations, so that people could see the agony in telling and why people don't come forward, like the Kavanaugh trial and all the things that have become public, that would be helpful for the general public. It would also start conversation with, if someone could see these images, they could be moved by how they felt seeing them. But I had no real clue of how to make it work. It was just the idea of being useful and being useful with my camera. So I wrote I designed a flyer, and I wrote, and I sent that flyer to everyone I knew, basically with a disclaimer saying, I'm not suggesting this is you, but you might know someone for whom this is relevant. And I'm going to be doing this at my studio, where people will come and I will photograph the process of telling. But when you are creating something like this, there are a lot of moving parts that you have to think about, like, what should people wear? What should the background look like? And it's a lot of design elements and really thinking it through. And I decided that I wanted everyone to be photographed under the exact same lighting. And then I wanted everyone to wear a white t-shirt, so that there was a sameness, and that that the focus was on the face and the mouth and the gesture, and not on your beaded necklace or your whatever jewelry you're wearing. So I went out and I bought a whole bunch of white t-shirts with long sleeves, short sleeves, and I put them on a rack in my studio in varying sizes. And so when people came, the first thing they did was to choose the shirt. That in itself was interesting to watch. Would a woman or a man, would they pick the short sleeve? Would they pick the long sleeve? How do you make that decision, knowing what you're going to do, what you're about ready to do? And I didn't really know anyone. I mean, I knew you, but I didn't really know the others who came. So picking out the shirt helps break the ice. We're talking about a shirt, and should I have my makeup on? What should I do? But then there's the moment where the teller sits on a stool in front of me and begins the process. And that's actually, I mean, I was just interviewed for a newspaper article, and I said, and it's true, it's the first time I've talked about Seen and Heard where I didn't cry. I was really not prepared, and it still knocks me down for what I would hear. I only thought about what I would see. And that was naive of me, because I was hearing things that were very difficult. Luckily, I had a license in my pocket that allowed me to hear difficult things because I did that for a living. But it didn't neutralize the empathy or the pain. And I felt a responsibility, and I still do, to every person who sat across from me, to make sure that this work is seen and heard, and that people who want to tell are inspired by all those who are photographed on the wall. So
I think it's important for people listening that you took the pictures, but you also recorded the stories.
I didn't record the stories as they evolved.
No, but they told their story.
Yes, the stories were told, and I photographed the actual telling of the story. But when it was done, I asked each person to make a short recording of either how it felt to tell the story, or parts of the story, or how they felt now. And all of those conversations have been edited and excerpted. They exist in totality, but the excerpts in this exhibition that is opening this week, there are 84 photographs, which comprise 15 of the 24 conversations that I photographed. And when you go into gallery space, you will see the images, but you will start to hear some of the excerpts. So you will hear someone say, you'll be looking at a conversation, doesn't matter who the speaker is, and you'll hear a man or a woman's voice, and you'll hear someone say, I was 4 and I was raped by my priest. And you will look at the faces and you will think about it. So those excerpts are there. And because it's about being seen and heard. And I spent a year actually with my design partner. We created a 164-page catalog of everyone who came. And so that in the catalog itself, there are a lot more edited images of these conversations, because galleries have limited wall space. So you have to make choices of what are you going to put on. Bowling Green, which is where this exhibition is, has enormous space, which allowed me to have 84 images comprising these conversations. And as important, because it's such big space, you can step back and breathe and listen. And their graphic design students are creating some sort of signage at my suggestion, which they agreed, to let people know before somehow this may bubble up feelings for you. And, take a breath. And there's, they can tell you where you could go for counseling. And the catalog itself is for sale at Bowling Green, where every penny of the sale goes to a support service called The Cocoon that offers counseling for men and women who have been victimized. So that was really important to me. If you're creating something, you want to give back to the community that is showing this work. So there are a lot of moving parts. It's been an overwhelming couple of weeks.
I'm sure. Well, it's opening on the 26th, right? Today's the 20th.
It is. I'm actually, it's opening, I think, yeah, it's opening on the 26th, and I'm going on Friday, and I'm anxious about it. Not anxious, excited. about it. I'm anxious about it because it's always a first time for me. When I was at the Art Institute, one of my photo teachers said, here's how you know you did a good job. You step back from a framed piece and you say, God, that's really great. I really like that. And you forgot that you made it.
Yeah.
And that's really how I feel about Seen and Heard, because it's so not about me. I'm really the observer of every courageous person who sat in front of me. And so I'm coming into gallery space, seeing it for the first time. Also, I've never seen it writ that large.
Yeah.
And if you go there, be prepared, because you are on the wall to see yourself in enormous prints in a sequence of my decisions of what I felt made the complete sentence of the story.
I will tell you, I distinctly remember the day.
I can't imagine,
Be-
as do I.
Yeah, well, because these were things, first of all, doing it was a big leap of faith, a big step for me, because most of this I've never discussed with anybody ever, especially the younger episodes. There might have been one or two things that happened, but there were numerous things that I shared in that process. And I had a little, kickback from family. Why are you doing this? Why do you want to put this out there? And Heart Mojo, and when I went through my cancer journey, was all about sharing to help someone else. That's what it was about. And I feel in general in life, I've come through this pretty good. I'm happy with who I am. I came through those situations that I discussed with you pretty good overall, and able to discuss them. And I want people to see it's okay. It's okay that I held that in for all those years. It's okay that I had the conversation with you and shared that with other people. So they know you can come out of it. It doesn't have to destroy your life. And if you've had a very extreme, difficult situation like that, you can get help too. And I think this for me was a very cathartic experience. I was allowed to share things. When I looked at the pictures, a couple of the pictures that you sent, I don't keep those out. It's not something that I want to sit and look at, because there is emotion in it. And even though I shared it and I put it out there, that challenge in my life, I don't want to relish or sit in it. I don't want to sit in it. I looked at it and I put them away. But I do want to come out and see it. It'll be interesting to see if I'm really prepared for that.
But you have a catalog
Of my pictures?
Don't you have? No, didn't you get a catalog?
Mm-mm.
Okay. When we're done, I don't know why you didn't. Did you move?
No.
Send me your. That's crazy. On your.
It's okay.
I need your address.
That's okay. No problem. We'll do that later.
I know everyone who participated has the full catalog.
Mm-hmm.
And I have heard many people who got it did not open it for a very long time.
Well, when the couple of pictures came, I
Yeah.
looked at that, but like I said, I put them back and put them away. It's a different experience, and it's really hard. I would love to be able to put it into words, but I'm not sure I can. And I'm thinking of coming up to Bowling Green by myself to go through this, rather than bring somebody else with me, because I'm not really sure how I'm going to react to it, because it isn't just my story. It's a shared story with other people.
Well, in addition to the conversations, some people, because of COVID, they can't have a face-to-face. They don't have, I'm not coming to give a gallery talk. Mm-hmm. So some people made videos talking about the experience because they wanted to reach students. And so we've edited those. And they can be watched. This is what bowling makes the space so amazing. There's another gallery that has a door that can close. So you can go in that room and watch the videos of some of the participants. And so that I I've watched one excerpt because it's people talking about it, about like you just did. I put the pictures away. It's like it's the follow-up story. Well, how do you feel now? Not easy, but anyway.
It was important for me to participate because you're right, stories come and go. Me Too is now overshadowed with so much else going on. It doesn't mean it isn't equally as important as it was a couple of years ago when it first really came to the forefront. And particularly now during COVID, there is so much violence happening in the home, so much sexual abuse going on because people are stuck in a very difficult situation that they emotionally can't deal with. And if they had that tendency, if they did it before, it puts them in a prime way, situation to continue that horrific behavior. So I think this is more important, even more important to get out there so that people remember that this is important to talk about, to share, to get help for.
Honey, first of all, I have to say that it's amazing what you've done. And I can't wait till, Melinda, you get the catalog and I can look at it as well. So many of us have been through life challenges, and life challenges that maybe we don't even remember until we look at a picture or we hear somebody else's words. And it is so important that we allow ourselves the chance to talk about these things and not be afraid. Um, that's what Melinda does on this program, but you have done so well with your craft. I mean, I wouldn't have thought about pictures to tell the story. I would have thought words, but it sounds like the pictures tell the biggest story.
I'll let you decide.
Okay.
Bowling Green, from wherever you live, can be an hour and a half away or 2 hours away. There's there's a newspaper article that has a little bit of the story. If you go to my website, which is my name, Honey Lazar, and then .com, and you look under projects, you will see Seen and Heard. You can click on it, and there are 3, I believe, audio excerpts on it, and a few of the images that are in it. I did not put it on the internet at all until about maybe a month or a month and a half ago, because I didn't want it shared inappropriately, and I didn't want it up there until I knew it had walls. Mm-hmm. But you can get an idea. You can't get an idea of the scale of it, of the space at Bowling Green. And I have tried for the last 2 years marketing this to Cleveland State, to Akron University. I wanted it really to be at a college, because I thought they have gender studies programs. They have a lot of, students who could come through, and young people. There's rape on campus. Across the board, I was getting rejected. It's political, I was told, or that's a political subject, or it's. I'm hoping that Bowling Green. First of all, I hope they know how much I appreciate them, and everyone who's on the walls does as well. But I'm hoping that it helps break the ice, almost in the same way that you broke the ice, that the ice was broken by coming to speak, that people aren't so afraid to look at the faces. There's an article in this issue of Vanity Fair, I think it's The Silence or something like that. The author of this article, the writer, has a book out now, memoir of her abuse when she was in prep school. And there's a great quote about first they silence you and then they shame you. So it's just not going anywhere. So
I am hoping that this broke the ice going to Bowling Green so that other colleges will now look at it and share it and pick it up.
well, I hope so. Part of the problem now, as we
It's
all
COVID.
know, is the colleges are closing. And I've been approached, why don't you put this, you should have a website. It can't be on a small screen. It can't. So it's photography, like most things, but speaking only as a photographer. And I've been a photographer for, oh my God, for 30 years now. So it's the longest I've done anything. It's a long game profession. And so I'm in it for the long game. I'm not stopping. I'm going to keep looking for ways to keep this seen.
Have you thought about a documentary with this?
It can't be woven into that format, because if I was going to do that, I should have videotaped. It should be a video installation.
Mm-hmm.
And it really isn't. I wanted the faces frozen. I'm not a videographer anyway, but I wanted the moment of crying, or of head in hands, or I wanted the viewer to be able to just experience the agony of telling the truth. And it can be telling the truth of a cancer diagnosis. Anything that's hard truth has a face that is different from blowing out birthday candle face.
Right. Well, and I think the diversity of what you put together is important too. Because I think when people think of sexual abuse, they have an idea of what that means to them. This is everybody, right? This could be you, it could be me, you could be young, you could be old, you could be black, you could be white, you could be male as well as female.
That's true.
And I think that is important for people to understand, because I don't know about you, but growing up at a certain age, if you were raped, it was always your fault. You were always it was your fault. You dressed the wrong way. You were in the wrong place. You did the wrong thing. And because of that, that created a silence. Today, it's slightly different, but yes, ever so slightly, but we definitely grew up in a culture where you just don't talk about it because you were always it's going to be your fault.
We have a man in the White House who said, if you're famous, you can grab pussy.
Mm-hmm.
And we haven't come very far. He got elected president after saying that, and somehow that was okay. Or, oh, haha, that was just locker room talk. So I'm not sure how far we've come, but I'm doing my small part
to push it forward. I think some women, younger women today, are a little more open to speak. They are. Than certainly I was at that, when I was in my 20s or 15, 16, with our first when I talked about that portion of what happened to me. I never told a soul. I never told my mother. I just said, okay, I'm going to be in trouble if I do that. I'm not going to talk about it. And I never talked about it for years. That one incident I did speak to with important people in my life later, but all of the other things you and I spoke about, or what I shared, mm-mm. And some things I remembered.
You're pretty typical.
And some things, though, as I was preparing and thinking and we were talking, something would come back to me that I had repressed, that I knew there was something wrong there, but it came back to my brain while I was in the moment. And that was really important for me, because I didn't realize, how far back some of those things were.
But don't you think the Me Too movement has encouraged women in our age group to come out and express more. I know that I wasn't allowed to express a lot growing up. Um, but when I was molested by a doctor, the first thing I did when I walked out of that room is I told somebody, because I was terrified. And I figured if I waited, nobody would believe me. But if I said it immediately, they would believe me. Um, it's it's difficult, but I think as I get older, I'm more willing to talk about the things that have happened in my past, because who's going to yell at me? Not my mom, not my dad. Luckily, I have a wonderful husband who's supportive. So I think the Me Too movement has opened up our hearts to each other, even though these terrible things continue to happen.
Well, that was, you've said it really well. That was the inspiration for Seen and Heard. Me Too blew the door open. And who did it blow the door open? To people who are, I don't know how old you are, but my age. And but we're talking about things that happened 50 years ago or 30 years ago. And that's the beginning. But imagine, just the fact that we carried this for 50 years, this burden. And in the article in Vanity Fair, when she says first they silence you and then they shame you, any first year therapy student understands that first you were victimized by the perpetrator and then you were re-victimized by your family. So you have this double victimization and it's not really easy to feel happy about yourself when you're pretty much told to be quiet. And then are you quiet about everything? And you're just a kid. So how do you know what's okay to talk about? And if your parents tell you you can't come to them with this, what else can't you come to them about? So it creates a lifelong decision-making process that probably is not so great for a lot of women our age. And actually, you bring up a great point. I was a little concerned in the beginning that I was only going to get women who had waited to tell the story. And I didn't need to worry about that. There were plenty of young women who walked through the door that couldn't wait to tell the story. But there's one of them said her hashtag is, and this is the difference in generations. Her hashtag on Instagram is "Say Your Rapist's Name."
Oh,
wow!
So you are right. This generation is different, and hopefully, with Me Too, we won't be reading about 50-year-olds or 40-year-olds or 60-year-olds talking about something that happened to them. But one of the things that I think, and I don't know if you would agree, but so let's say you're 50 and you're talking about something that happened when you were 13. I think the reflexive response is, come on, aren't you over it yet? Because it is so diminished as if and minimized. Oh, no, actually, I'm not over it. And there's not an understanding of why you're not over it. And I think, to me, that's the subtext of Me Too. Why were so many, like the next day you looked on Facebook and hashtag Me Too, hashtag Me Too, hashtag, oh my God, was every woman assaulted or molested? Well, maybe. And gee, aren't they over it yet? So I think we're just at the beginning. And part of it is understanding that this is a damaging thing that happens that women are really good at minimizing. Maybe it wasn't that bad. Maybe I am overreacting. You know, you're 15 years old. You don't want to be weird or abnormal. You want to be like everyone else. Only you have no idea how many other people are actually like you when you're
Right.
15 years old. So.
Well, and 15 years old today, as you pointed out, they were more likely to come and tell their stories, way different than 15, 40 plus years ago. 15 then, no one talked about having sex. God, your parents find out you were in trouble. You didn't talk about birth control. You didn't talk about any of those things. That is an open book for the most part. Now, not in every culture, but in a lot of cultures. And I do think for the age, the time, that was a big thing. And we had a very puritanical country where it was mom and pop, Ozzie and Harriet, coming out of the 50s and 60s. And those things just didn't happen because you were in this family, and that just didn't happen. And I think it was minimized. I think it was, you're making a big deal out of it. And women were taught, you just put up with whatever and you move on, because you have to be strong for your family. You have to be strong for whoever. And that's what we did. That's just what we did. So I think
I think that's, unfortunately, that's what women, not Kamala Harris, not this new generation of women, but it's more common for women to minimize and to put up with it. Simply, it's cultural. And I think we also get rewarded for keeping our mouths shut. And children should be seen and not heard, or there's a gain in that. And I'm sorry. I'm really sorry about COVID on every single level, but I'm sorry that so much got stunted, because I think we were starting to move along, and then this thing came that is so, it's invisible. We don't even know. When you start thinking of all the things you can't do right now, they're big and little things that who can think about this when you're trying to think about that. So
when you're trying to teach your children, if you have them at home, or maybe take care of your elderly parents, a loved one who has a problem, and protect them. And what if you lost your job, right? Or you're working from home, you're Zooming like we're doing now. There's a lot of pressure on everyone today. And I think this could potentially get lost, but it's so very important to put out there. And that's why I really wanted you on the show. Not just because I participated, but because this message needs to still stay current.
Well,
so it doesn't get lost.
On behalf of everybody who's walked through my door and put on a white shirt, thank you for inviting me to talk about something that obviously I care an enormous amount about. I would love it if it didn't need talking about.
How long will this be on display?
It is on through September.
September 25th, I think, right?
Yeah, and people can go to the Bowling Green site. I think the way I access it is to go to Google and I type in Bowling Green Honey Lazar, seen and heard.
Okay.
And it takes me directly to the gallery information. People have asked, are they going to have a virtual opening? And I was told that they are not. But now that may not happen. There may be something virtual as well. One of the things that was talked about when I first started the project was that many of the participants, if it got to a venue, had an interest in meeting each other in real life. Not to start a support group, but just out of curiosity and companionship. And because I'm in touch with everyone to tell them where, once again, and yay, now it's being seen. One of the women said, I'm just disappointed because I was so hoping that I could meet the others. So now there's a conversation about, well, if there really is that, could we do that virtually? Could Bowling Green have like a coffee hour or something where women and men, they could log on and come out and talk to each other about, why did you do it, and what's it like? I know that some of the people who were in it, most people like you, Melinda, had never told anyone before they came to see me, which was stunning to me. And I just assumed I was like the end of the telling cycle. But lives changed. Some people got divorced. I mean, things happened.
Mm-hmm.
Not because of me, certainly, but because of the unburdening, as you said, of the telling, of just the regurgitation of it all, and putting the shame somewhere else. And then you got some prints in the mail from your photographer. And so you had a little look at what was happening.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully it was helpful or something.
Well, I definitely think it was helpful. It's just something that when you bubble it up, now you have to do something with it. You have
Yes.
to deal with it. Because once it's there, it's really hard to push back down, especially memories that may have been put aside for 50 years. So I think that was probably the hardest part, because I've been on camera before, because I've done modeling and and I do videos. I'm used to the camera part, but I wasn't used to the picture it caught of me. Does that make sense?
Oh, I think you said 100% what every person sitting on that stool felt like. This is different from having my picture taken. And I tried to explain before people came, this is different than a family portrait. This is not a headshot. And this is going to feel different, and it's going to be 100% different.
But until you were there and in the moment,
you can't pre-know.
and then you see it later, because even in the moment when you're dealing with the emotion, you're not seeing yourself, you're not seeing your face, you're seeing our face. And so when you see it in the picture, I've not shown it to anybody.
Oh, just you wait. If you go, just wait.
Well, I mean, I plan on going.
Yeah, but I'm just saying it'll be, I think you'll see yourself from a distance, because
somebody else.
Well, as you, but it's who you were then.
Right, but like somebody else. It's a surreal type thing.
It is surreal.
You
One of the men who drove from Detroit to participate in this, and he's driving from Detroit to see it and hear it. And I said, well, do you want me to meet you there? Do you need support? No, I don't want. I want to go by myself. I just want to experience it.
I think for me, because for a long time I didn't talk about it, I didn't share that with family or friends, I don't know how that experience would be to share that with someone else. It's almost like I want to go see it for myself, feel whatever emotion I'm going to feel. I mean, it would be nice to have support, but I almost think it's better to experience by myself. Then I could always go back, but that's kind of my gut reaction. Do you know if you have to make an appointment? Is this open now, or no? Like a reservation?
I can't get my microphone to work on this, but I can. Somebody said they thought that you had to, and then I checked on the site, and all they gave were the hours. So let me answer your question, as if I know what I'm talking about.
Well, I'm trying to navigate it myself. But while you're looking for that, for those people who are listening, the actual full name is Seen and Heard Conversations About Sexual Assault, Abuse, and Rape. So it will be in the Dorothy Uber Bryan Gallery at Bowling Green. And we're hoping to have whether you need a ticket to get in. But if we don't find it, you can always call there and make.
You won't need a ticket.
You will not.
No, this says all visitors must wear masks. Groups and classes will be admitted Wednesday through Thursday by appointment only. So that's groups. So you're not coming as a group. They can have 40 people at a time. So I don't think you need a reservation.
It doesn't sound like it.
No, it says the number of visitors in each gallery will be limited to, in the Dorothy Uber Bryan Gallery, 40. And the days of appointment only are Mondays and Tuesdays. All exhibitions are free. The public is welcome. So it's open on weekends. So it's open from 1 to 4 on Saturday and Sunday. On Friday from 11 to 4. Thursday is Thursday night only. Wednesday's 11 to 4. So it's really Wednesday through Sunday to go. Or you could go by appointment on Monday and Tuesday and probably enjoy it by yourself.
I think, so I'm torn because my picture is there. Like if I'm there and other people are there, they're going to look at the picture and go, oh, right?
Well, I don't know that they'll recognize you.
I don't know. But that's the fear, if you go, it might be nice to go by yourself.
No, but you will be wearing a mask. So
I will be. You're right.
Really know you may not really connect.
You're absolutely right. The mask, that's an interesting turn of events with this, isn't it, honey?
Oh, I for a while I was talking to my design partner and I said, how about the irony of now you have to go in masked? And I said, we should use our logo, our brand, and put it on a mask. And then we're like, ugh. No, we're not doing that. We're not trivializing Seen and Heard. But you need to wear a mask. But if there's no one else in there,
you might not have
distanced, you can take your mask off.
Right.
I would. And I have never been there unmasked. The gallery director is very distanced. We were incredibly safe. The sound component was just installed on Sunday, and I understand it. It's quite something to hear it and see it. It's you have a vision you have an artistic vision, and it's grand. Oh, and I want sound, and I want this, and how naive is that to imagine that it would ever happen? But it actually is happening because Bowling Green had speakers. I mean, it was worth waiting for.
Well, and this is where you were meant to be to start this. I believe that. So for all of those who said no, this is where you were meant to be. Yeah. And I'm sure it will move from there because I haven't been there, and maybe we'll have you back. Maybe we'll do a round robin with a couple of women on there, and we'll see how it felt to go see it. Maybe there's somebody who wants to be on and share that.
That would be great.
It would be a very interesting conversation because obviously if they sat before you, honey, and let you take their picture and hear their story, they're ready to help others.
Mm-hmm.
And as there's a huge motivation to when I did the print interview, one of the women took an Uber to my studio. There was no way she wasn't going to do this. And she is definitely going to go to Bowling Green. I don't know how she's going to get there, but she's going to get there. Because every time we have a communication, she writes back and says, thank you for giving us a voice. So,
Well, I don't think we can top that to end this today. Thank you for giving us a voice.
Thank you for giving me a voice in my messy space. I set up this whole really cool scene and my microphone didn't work. So
That's okay, because we all are working from home. Karen's
yeah,
working from her home office. I'm working from my home office. So it's all good. This is where we're at right now, right?
it's all good. Thank you for being a daily inspiration to me,
Oh,
Melinda,
you're
and it was
welcome.
very nice meeting you. And thank you for having me as your guest.
Thank you. I appreciate you being on and the important message that you're putting out there. And
Thank
I hope that people will come out and check it out.
me too.
I'd like to say, oh, I've seen it, so I can speak from personal experience, but I will.
Don't forget to send me your address, which I should have anyway on a release form, but send it to me so I can get it in the mail.
I moved from when I
Yeah,
did. Yeah,
so maybe that is something that may have happened.
maybe we'll see.
So
No,
send it to me. Okay.
I will. Thank you again.
Thank you. Have a nice evening, everybody. Stay safe.
Yep, you stay
Let's get
safe
to
as
the
well.
other side.
Take
Bye.
care.